Hi, and welcome back to the second part of the tutorial. This time I will show you how to mix your paint to apply the washes. Washes are thin, really thin layer of paint that we will apply on the kit to give the skin color. Washes are very well dilute paint because you want to build up your skin tone very slowly. You don't want strong color. One reason for that is you want to keep the transparency of the paint and you don't want to mess up. So if you apply a strong color that is not dilute enough, you will get too fast, too dark, and it will be very hard, it will be impossible to fix. So you want to go very slow and careful with washes. Another reason is that you will also build your skin tone with mottling. I will show you later on what mottling is. That also will add color to your kits. So the lighter the washes, the better. I will start with the red. I almost always start with the red color. It's not a necessity, it's just a matter of preference. You may use any color you wish to begin your kit. I use the red because I think it gives a really nice pinkish tone for the base. Particularly when you have more orange, darker kit to begin, you will not need a lot of yellow, so I think it's a great idea to begin with blue or red. In this case, with our reborn kit, she's already very pale, so if you want to begin with yellow, that's okay too. You will find your way to paint. I will just show you how I do it. It's not necessarily the best way or the only way. You will find your way to paint. Which technique you prefer, you will develop your own. So for the washes, I tend to make a larger quantity of those because you will have to apply more than one layer, one coat. So it's a good idea to make enough quantity, at least to cover one layer on all the kit. But also you will need a lot of it along the way. If you are left with some of the washes, you can store it in little container, sealed container, like those kind of little pot. So it's not a waste. You will find that you need very little paint. The only thing that we will add in quantity is the medium. So I put about 2-3 drops of paint. I will try to show you. 1, 2, 3. Be careful when you close your lid because the paint can splash. So you have your few drops of paint. It's very little. Then we'll add your medium. I use a larger paintbrush. To add my medium and to mix it. So I will go about I would say double or triple the amount that I have paint. I begin with that and then I can adjust the quantity later. So I mix it with the paint. Then I will add a few drops of water just to get to milk consistency. So don't add too much at a time and mix very well. So I get to about rich milk or a light cream, maybe, consistency. Mixing it very well. You see it turn pink. Don't worry. It will stay red. You will just have the impression. You will just think it's pink, but there's no white in the paint. So you want to test your paint, the color. What I like to do is taking a piece of paper, Scott towel, and I just paint over I'm not sure if you can see. It's transparent. It's not opaque. At first, it may be a bit difficult to get the right consistency, but you will know. You will know very fast because you will test it. You can use a test piece if you have one, but you can also just go behind the head. It's a nice way to test. Just apply some. See that you barely see the paint. And then with your sponge, you will do the same that we have done with the... I have the sun, sorry for that. That we have done with the primer. You will go over, press on it to remove any excess. You want something that stain the kit almost. So now you don't even see it at the camera. We'll try to remove the sun out of my way. You barely see when it was. The only thing you can see is that I have a little mark around. It's because I didn't remove it fast enough. But it's barely there. That's what you want on your kit. You will have, you will think that you are not putting any color, that it's very slow, but don't worry. After a few layers of each primary color, you will see a difference. But right now, you see almost no difference. That's what you want. Don't want to see the red popping. Just add a little bit more water. The water also helps the paint to not dry too fast. Usually I don't use any retarder in my wash. I developed a way to apply the paint that allow me to be fast enough to not let marks. But if you are worried that you will not be fast enough, you can use extender drying time or any retarder that you have. I have this one, but I know the golden retarder works well You can use any brand, that's not really a problem. Don't use too much of the retarder because the paint will not dry. It will take a very long time to dry. The kit will become tacky, sticky. Paint can come off. The more you apply layers, the more likely the paint will come off when you apply the next layers, because the previous one may not have dried yet. Take a while, so just a few drops of extender. They say about in this one particular, one drop of retarder for 1 drop of paint. But so if you have put 3 drops of paint, you can put 3 drops of retarder. It's not the amount that you have in your bowl, it's just for the paint. So don't go too much, just a few drops. You will be good. If you are worried, you can just add a little bit more medium and water to be more dilute. That will give you even more time to work. I find it very hard today to speak in English. I don't know why. Well, I try. I try. Usually what I do when I apply paint, I apply it with my paintbrush. Then I pounce with the sponge. Before, a few years ago, I went directly with the sponge. I put paint on the sponge and then go with the sponge. But I find out that it gives me more marking of dry paint. And I don't like this method anymore. Some people still use this method to apply the paint. I prefer to go with the paintbrush. I apply thick enough to get the time to work with. If it's too thin, it will dry before you have the time to pounce it. So if I apply just a thin layer like that, it will begin to dry around the edge. So I don't want it to dry before I go over it with my sponge. So what I do, I usually apply it and let it drop a bit, then go over with my sponge. When your sponge doesn't absorb anymore, just press it on the paper, the towel paper, and continue. You don't want to go over the same place a lot of time. You can go over 1 or 2 times, but not always at the same place. If you go over what you already remove, you will add the paint that is on your sponge, will add it onto the paint that is dry, and it will create darker spot of color like that. And you can maybe see that it becomes darker and darker, that you don't want this to happen. So go over very a very few times. You just want to remove the excess paint. You don't want to paint over again. The way I go is I begin at the back of the head, because later on I will add hair, and it doesn't matter if they're stained or darker or whatever mistake you may have made, because it will be covered. If you work with you want a bald baby, be careful. Maybe you can use the flange of the kit to test your paint, or you can use a test part. Sometimes test parts are kits that we we made too much mistakes, you don't want to strip it and or use crack or anything like that, or you can buy pieces that are specifically sold for that purpose. And you will be afraid to do your first layer. You will be afraid. It's normal, don't worry. It's the first layer. If you are not happy, you can just use alcohol and strip it, reapply primer and start over. It's not too bad, it just take a little more time, but there's no problem there. I start the back of the head and I stop above the ear. I do this part first. That way, if the paint begins to dry, the mark will be in the place that is almost invisible, because I put air over. So I go generously with the paint. It's like that, and I take my sponge and I go over, often pressing the excess paint on my sponge on a paper towel. And I go all over like that. I like to begin on the edge. That way it will be less likely to let marks. It will help you. In fact, it's very, very rare that I work in two pieces. I do all the head in one go because I am used to it and I work kind of fast. So I better like do all the head in one go. But you are a beginner; it's your first try, so just do small parts. I take my mop brush and I go over all the crease that may contain paint pooling. To remove any excess, you can go over all the head if you want. And after you are finished, you will see that the paint is almost dry already. This one will have let's say it's a birthmark, but normally you should not see a lot of difference. If you see a lot of difference in color, it's because your paint is not dilute enough. Then I do the face, and I will do it in one go with the paintbrush. I do not want to have dry marks over the face, so I will work kind of fast. Put the paint everywhere, inside the ear, in the crease, under the neck, in the mouth if you have a mouth that is open. And you do this very fast. You see how fast I work? So do not take your time. Just go over with the paintbrush as fast as you can, and then take your sponge and go over the paint as fast as you can. Don't forget, do not go over the part that you already went with the sponge. Just remove the excess paint. The rest will dry. So you remove all you can with the sponge. Then when you are satisfied, like this, I have not paint. I do not have any paint left on the face, but we have some paint in the crease. So you take your mop brush and just go over removing the excess paint. Be careful, if you go like this, you will put the paint elsewhere. So you may just want to push on the paint and not drag the paint. So you mop the excess, just be careful to spread it in the same place, not drag it, because you will have a paint mark over. And don't be too worried if you have some dry paint, mark of dry paint, because when we will do the mottling, they will disappear. So you see that my paint is darker, a bit darker than it should be. I want you to see well enough where I put it. Normally I will do a bit more dilute than that, but I want you to see the red. But you see that it gives some color, it's not too much color. You repeat this for every limb. I will do my paint a bit more diluted. With the limb, I like to start. I do the end first, then arms up to the elbow, then the rest of the arm. Personally, I do all the limbs in one go, but when you're a beginner, the best way to do it is by section. That way you have time to work it, to remove all the pooling, to see where you're at, and be less likely to have big marks all over. So you put the paint on the end, same way, go inside every crease. If you have an open end kit, that's easier, but don't forget to go between the fingers. Then I will go with my sponge. Try to remove as much paint as I can. And then before I do the rest of the arm, I make sure that there's no pooling anywhere. Sometimes when we're not careful enough, there's some paint liquid between fingers or in the crease, and it will drop along the arm, and you stick with a big stain of paint where you don't want it to be. So inspect your kit. You can keep also tweezer near. If you have any air or dust that you see, you can remove it right now, because if you wait too long and you add more paint over it, you will not be able to remove the air that may have stuck on the piece. See that I have diluted I have diluted a bit more, and already you can see that there's not a lot of difference in the color on the end and the arm. That's what we want. Then don't go over the end again, just start exactly where you stop the previous layer. If you have a very small kit, you can do the arm in one go, maybe easier. So remove all the excess paint. Then I do the remaining part of the arm. If you think your paint is drying too fast, don't add more retarder, add more water and medium. It will help. So you can see the arm, no pooling, no dry spot. The color change is not big. You do the same if you want to see maybe the difference. Just a little bit more darker. You will do the same with the legs. I do exactly the same. Beginning at the foot, stopping at the ankle, then this part up to the knee, then the rest. I like to do it all in one, but when you begin, take smaller piece at a time. So I really just apply up to the crease of the ankle. I apply still a lot of paint between the toes, etc. because I don't want it to dry too fast. I like to start where the limit of the paint is, to avoid the paint to dry at this place. I go over with my sponge. Don't go over the same spot again and again. Be careful. Then take my mop brush and remove any excess of paint. Be very careful between the toes. That's often where the paint stays. You will have a and then continue. Maybe I will show you how I paint all the leg in one go. We'll have an idea. I don't put my paint too thin. Don't want it to dry on me. Put it everywhere. Then starting at the ankle, I made my way up, turning the limb to not go over the same spot over again. Remove any excess paint. Then I go with my mop brush, remove any pooling that may occur. You inspect your limb to be sure everything is good and nice. If you have some hair, maybe a good idea to remove it now. I always have some pet hair on mine. And then you go over the next limbs. So it's not complicated, very not complicated. It's a long process. It may be a bit frustrating at first because you will have stains, you will have a dry paint, you will have spots that you miss. It's normal, totally normal. The more you will do, the better you will be. And mistakes are just a way to be better, to learn, to be good at it. It's nothing more than that. Don't worry, you will not mess up a kit. I mean, you will not scrap the kit. If you make a mistake, if the reborn is not it's not good at the end because you did make some mistakes, don't worry, just use alcohol. Use 99% isopropyl alcohol. Just use that on the kit with a rug and remove the paint and start again. You can do that a lot of time. Sure, the kit may be stained after a while, but it will give you great practice. You will not have to throw the kit away. Some people think that when they make mistake, they just have to throw the kit away and they don't want to spend a lot of money on kit just for throwing them away. Don't worry, there's always a way to start over. Sometimes when it's very small mistakes, you can just correct them in some way. So for example, if your kit is too red, you can add a green layer to try to correct the red. It's something about the color wheel. I will not start on that now. I will go over it a bit later. But when you use a color wheel, you see that the opposite color on the wheel is the color you will use to correct. If the kit is over, it's too yellow, too blue, too red, you can use the opposite color to try to bring it back a little bit. Sometimes there's spot of paint, there's mark on the kit. You can use mottling, you can use make little scratches, things like that will help you correct the kit. The only thing that we cannot correct is if we go too dark. You can never go lighter after. That's the only thing that you cannot really correct. Or if you have a big stain of paint because there was pooling, so that it's a bit harder to correct. So the other color, yellow and blue, you will have to mix about the same as the red. You always take a paper towel to try to see if the color is translucent enough. You can use the flange of the kit, you can use a test part to test it, but it's about the same transparency as the red. You have to be very light. Better to be too light than too heavy. It's easier to work with, it's easier to add more, it's impossible to remove, so it will help. So you do exactly the same as for the red paint, but with each of the primary colors. So if you have done a red layer, you can go and do a blue or a yellow layer, then the other remaining color. It will be 3 layers, and when you mix those 3 layers one over another, it will give you kind of a beige, brownish beige at the end. So that is the base of your skin tone. I will not show you each and every one of the layers because it's the same, there's no difference. If you want to see it very each color, you can go see my previous tutorial to see, but it's really the same thing. You just mix it with a lot of medium, about 2-3 times the medium than the paint, and some water. Make it about light cream consistency or milk if you prefer, not too thin with water, and test it before you apply it all over the kit, and you will be go to continue. So when you have made your 3 primary colors layer, your first 3, I will come back in the third part to show you how to do the vein and the undertones on the kit. It's the fun part. You will see it's really a fun part. And then after that we will do mottling. But for now, just apply your 3 layers, not more than that for now. If your paint is very well diluted, you can maybe add another round of those 3 colors. But for just now, just do those 3 layers, and then I will see you with the vein and the undertones. Thank you and have a nice day. Bye bye.